We finally got our hands on the most legendary Mercedes Benz of all time, one that is still used up to this day as like taxi cabs in Africa. Here we have the 1978 Mercedes Benz 300D, W123 body. Today I'm going to show you around this car and I'm also going to give it a test drive, so stay tuned. I'd like to thank our video sponsor, ZeroStainAutomotive.com. ZeroStainAutomotive.com is a website that sells car parts and accessories. They're kind enough to send me this one right here, the Pegasus Lights Attack V2 LED headlights. Now I received one from them before, which I installed in my LC90 Prado, the Land Cruiser, but they sent me another one, which I shall install later on. They also sent me a couple of stuff like tail bulbs and P10 light bulbs, which you can use for your plate number or your interior lights, so they are quite handy. They also sent me some tire gel right here and an all-purpose cleaner. From the exterior, the W123 is one of the most iconic Benzes of all time. If you ask a kid to draw a car, this is pretty much what he would draw, which is basically just a box on wheels. There's not that much styling cues on this one. It's pretty much just like a big, beautiful little brick. So you do get two character lines on the hood. You have your three-pointed star. This being a US version, you get your 5-mile-per-hour extended bumpers. They are really quite long. You also have these like weird-looking lights, which were really a thing for US version cars before. They were pretty much mandated. Now towards the side of the car, you have one of those amber lights. These are red lights. You got two of these chrome lines running across the car, which just adds a little bit more flair. So there's one up here, one below, but a couple of lines you don't notice here is there's this one more line that runs all the way from the front of the car to the back of the car, which just makes it look a little bit more classy. Same thing here on the side. There's just really nothing much. It's just squares on squares on squares. But while we're here, I just want to let you listen to the sound of the doors on this one. So that's it opening. Just listen to how that thuds. That is probably the best sounding doors that you can get in a car. As for the rims on this one, this is probably the most iconic rims, at least for the 123. It's the best looking, the most period correct rims on this one. This is a 14-inch rim. We call this the Benz 1 or the Bunt style rims. You can also get this car with a couple of other rim choices as well as hubcap choices, but this is the one perfect for this one. This is a 205/70/14. The back of the 123 is quite interesting. Sure, design-wise, there's nothing much there. You just have that chrome strip across on the side, going all the way around this and extending all across the trunk. You have your third brake light right there. You have your 300D badge, your diesel badge. Then, of course, your ribbed taillights, which is a thing with these old Mercedes. Since it's a US version, just like the front, you have your 5-mile-per-hour bumper. After all, it is a bumper, so you want to extend it a little bit so that you can take a little bit more bumps. Opening this one up, you just press this button right here. And inside, you don't really have that much like tapered lines, which modern cars have. This is just as square as it can get. As you can see though, this one is filled with a lot of spare parts for this car, which is really nice to have. Even the sound of this trunk is pretty good. While the W123 came with a multitude of engines, probably the most iconic one is this engine right here in this 300D. So as you open this hood up, you have this 3-liter inline 5 OM617 engine, which produces 80 horsepower and 172 Newton meters of torque. Yes, it is quite rally, but this is possibly the most sturdy and not reliable, but dependable engine in the world. It's not the fastest either, but again, we go back that this engine just goes and goes and goes. Over 1 million miles, no problem with this engine. This, unfortunately, is made into a 4-speed automatic transmission that is vacuum controlled, so that could act up once in a while. Here inside the 300D, door thud check, even though we already did it. Enough said. Enough said. Now start the car up. One click start. Okay, rattly engine. Now here inside the interior, it is a lovely place. So this is what they call the tobacco brown interior. You also get zebrano wood on this one. So this entire car is just covered in leather and beautiful wood. Anyway, the steering wheel, it is incredibly huge. It's about the size of a W116 or W126 more or less. You get leather on the sides, wood up top, and these are all beautifully restored. The instrument cluster is very basic. You have your clock on it already. You have your aircon vents. They are all round and they're really tight, but not tight in a clunky way, more like tight in a really solid way. Everything about this car is just incredibly solid. Even the light switch here on the side, the way it clicks, you just know that this one was made with quality. To the middle of everything, you have your climate control because this is the US version. It's one of those really complicated looking AC controls back from its time. You get a couple more switches up here, including a switch for the sunroof, which is, well, all working by the way. And it is actually pretty big for a car this size. You get this light button right here for the dome light at the back. You can only control it from the front, nowhere to control from the back. You get your Becker Grand Prix stereo, but this one doesn't work anymore, so the owner did put one in the glove box. Pretty cool. Down below, you get your regular shifter. It's a 4-speed automatic, nothing fancy with that. It's still also covered with wood with a shifter, which is really nice. You get more of your window switches back here, and unlike modern cars, unlike modern Mercs, these are really raised and ridged, so it's a really different looking switch. Even your hazard switch is really big. The seats, this is back from the time when Mercedes-Benz was making seats that are less firm and more towards the springy side. So these seats are really springy, they're only manually adjustable, but even the headrests themselves, they're just a really nice place to sit on. To the side of everything, your tobacco brown interior continues. You even have a small armrest right here and a really tiny door handle. To adjust your side mirrors in this car, nothing is automatic, so you do have to move these levers over here, including on the passenger side. The back seat, door thud check. Sounds way better than the front. Not saying that the front is bad, but that is just the best door thud I've ever heard. Anyway, okay, now back here, legroom is actually really good. What's nice about it though is that since the seats are as springy as the front, you do tend to sink in a little bit, which increases your legroom a little bit more, and it also increases your headroom. Headroom here is really good. Unfortunately, you do not get rear headrest for this one, but as for your toys, you do get a really cool toy back here. So instead of having your usual armrest in the middle being pulled from the top, you have to pull it from this strap right here, and pulls forward and like that, and it just locks into place. But when you do want to close it, you have to again pull it from the back and it'll slide in just like that. Now, seating 3 people back here in this car is also really good. In a lot of modern cars, the middle seat is quite high, but for this one, since it's also springy and it sinks down quite a bit, your headroom is also still really good. And although the transmission tunnel is pretty tall and wide, the foot space in this car is just something else. One of the biggest in any cars I've ever tried. 1978 Mercedes Benz 300D. Non-turbo. About this car was never meant to go fast. So right now I am really flooring it and nothing's happening. 0 to 100 in this car is 19.9 seconds. So it's not 20 seconds yet when it was new on a rolling road. So imagine today, around 40 plus years later, this thing is just, it's one huge slouch. But that's really not the point of this car. This car, the very moment you go at higher speeds, we're currently doing around like 30 plus miles per hour right now. And although it is not refined in terms of the engine because of all the vibration, the general feeling of the car, you know that it is well built. It's extremely solid built. This is back from the time when Mercedes didn't really go about the aesthetics of the car. It's really all more about the function over the form. So there's just absolutely nothing that can break in this car. This is all about the reliability, or at least the dependability that it can provide. This particular car right here has done over 209,000 miles, but I'm not sure if the odometer is still working. But despite that, this thing feels brand new. Feels brand new in the way that everything about it is perfectly working. Everything about it is just so beautiful feeling. But really, it's not a modern feeling car. For example, this steering wheel, this recirculating ball steering wheel, you have to turn it a lot, and if you're going in a straight line, you find yourself correcting it once in a while because there seems to be like one huge dead spot around 6 inches or so as you turn this. For that first 6 inches, nothing's happening. Okay, now we're accelerating this car. You have that 4-speed automatic, and it's taking a while to get up to speed, but once you're there, it's not bad. It kind of revs pretty high, but I wouldn't know as well because this doesn't even come with a tachometer. Instead, you got that clock right there in the instrument cluster. Now for handling in this car, this is back before Mercedes toyed with the suspension to make it a sporty handling car. So this car, you really have to grab onto your seat as a passenger in this car. Handling is non-existent. It's pretty much just like driving a boat. If you've driven a W126, this feels like a slightly smaller version of that, but you can really still feel all the heft that this car has. Over these like speed bumps right here, we're just gonna try it out a little. And it's incredibly soft. it's way softer than a W124. Next thing about this car is the noise. So it is quite loud in here. While the wind noise from the outside is very much subdued, which is not something I expected from this car. And tire noise is also pretty good despite this having like Chinese branded tires, but the engine noise is just something else. It's a bit hard for me to speak in here without having to strain a little bit. I do have to raise my voice a little bit just for the mic to pick it up because that diesel engine is really quite loud. One thing I love about this 300D is the visibility that it can provide. So back before you have really big pillars, really huge bezels, this thing just has huge windows all across. You're not gonna doubt for 1 second where any part of the car is because it's still quite nimble and you can see so much out of it. You know exactly where each part of the car is at any point in time. Now that we're driving here on EDSA, the infamous EDSA of the Philippines, this car is holding up pretty well. EDSA is not exactly known to have the best roads, and the particular lane that I'm at right now, it's a bit jarring, but the 123 soaks up all those bumps really well. And well, that's because again, you go back to the suspension, which is incredibly soft, and right now we are outside Mercedes Benz Philippines, and you can really see the huge difference in terms of styling and what the car was meant to do from these modern Mercs. If you're looking for your first old Merc, then the 300D is one of those cars that you can definitely check out. They're not too expensive right now, although those might be in a little bit of a shabby shape, but this thing can be your daily driver. And that's a big problem with older Mercs, as with my W140 S-Class. It's not something that you can daily drive. It's not particularly economical. There's so much computers that could break. But this one right here, it's a purely mechanical car. Adjusting this car, tuning this car, fixing it up. You can always find some sort of Euro specialist that can make this thing run forever. Again, of course, it's not the most reliable. It's still around 40 plus years old. However, if you do maintain this car, and there's so much parts out there, this is one of those cars that can really go on and on and on, as long as you fix it properly. Now, this particular 300D right here, in its all magnificent, beautifully preserved and restored glory, is actually for rent if you're interested in doing photo shoots. So just head on over to Grail Classics or put their Facebook link and IG down below in the description. This is one of those cars that you might even be able to take for like your prenup shots. It's just one beautiful machine, a testament to how much Mercedes has come from the past, but also shows you just how good of a pedigree modern E-classes have had. This is the prime example of a W123 and a prime example of a Mercedes-Benz E-Class. Today's Mercedes-Benz will not get all the prestige that they have without having this car first in their list of beautiful legendary cars. So you want to upgrade your aging vehicle to make it look a little bit more modern and at the same time add a little bit more safety. What's the best way to do that? You upgrade to LED headlights. And today here, my friend's 1995 Tamaraw FX will receive this treatment. We're going to use this Pegasus Lights Attack V2 LED headlights from ZeroStainAutomotive.com, and we're gonna see just how much brighter the light can be. So here, driving the Tamaraw FX, and as you can see, the stock headlights are doing a really poor job of illuminating the road. And even if you use like high beam right now, it's not doing a great job out of it. Now we've installed ZeroStainAutomotive.com's Pegasus Lights Attack V2 LED headlights. Even with just the low beam, it is so much brighter than stock. And if you put on high beam, not only is it brighter, but it goes way further than stock. So if you're looking for something to upgrade the look of your car and also to increase your safety, just go to ZeroStainAutomotive.com and check out their line of LED headlights and other car accessories.